Hello, everyone. Today I'm going to be talking about the new old release by Taylor Swift, Red Taylor's Version. This is her second re-recording in the 6 albums that she is choosing to re-record to get one up on Scooter Braun and Scott Borchetta for not letting her buy her own masters, devaluing the originals as it should by putting these new versions up, which sound nearly identical to the originals. I made a review about her first re-recording, which was her 2008 album Fearless, which came out in the spring, which I will link in the description, a review for, if you're interested. And I share a little bit more of my thoughts about the overall idea of this re-recording process. You know, I will always be 100% behind the political, social, monetary reasoning behind why she's doing this. Though I will admit I was a little bit hesitant that this was going to be a good idea. I was worried that I was going to potentially be put in a position where I was going to be pitting an old version versus a new version and having to choose between the two and potentially preferring the older version and feeling conflicted about that. But luckily she understood that the point of these re-recordings is to basically re-record the whole entire song, not change too much. You can update it just a little bit by just the fact that it is a separate recording. It's in a different studio. It's the same instruments, but you know, maybe there's a bit more sharpening of some things, refining of some things, fine-tuning, tweaking. Her voice is going to sound a little different. Most of these songs a decade later, yeah, her voice is going to sound a little deeper as she's no longer, 20, she's now 30 plus. So that's going to factor into it, but it's almost identical. And so that's, of course, something I was very happy to see on Fearless. And I can once again state that with Red, as I predicted now, that is the case. Let's see, I believe it was 19 or 20 songs that are songs from 2012, if I'm making that correct in my head, because there's 16 songs on the standard edition, plus 3 bonus tracks, plus Ronan. That's 20 songs. So there are 20 songs that we'd all heard before that are on this new version. There are 10 songs that I don't believe we had heard her sing. 2 of those songs had been sung by other artists, other country artists over the past 5 years that she had written for Red. She makes it very clear that these 30 songs were all originally intended for that album. The songs that we get from the vault are songs like she did with Fearless that, she is deciding to dust off the diary covers for and say, let's make this a full-fledged song. It wasn't going to fit on this record. Maybe it didn't sound quite like the rest of the songs. Maybe she thought, I'll put it on the next one. There's a couple of songs on here that sound like they would have fit very well at home in 1989, the next album. So I could see why she maybe shelved it for that. But then, of course, when she was writing 1989, she thought, oh, I've got a lot of great songs here. I don't have room for this old Red, B-side. Maybe I'll put it out one day. Well, she finally is. And I do think it's a great idea for her to attach all these vault songs. At over 2 hours, these 30 songs, this is like a humongous album, which is kind of rare for country artists. I was kind of remarking to someone that I was like, country artists don't really put out long albums. You don't really see artists in that genre do that. You see that more in hip hop. It's starting to become more popular in just pop music in general. But country artists like to keep to that 12, 13 song format, that keep it simple, keep it under an hour, tradition. And Taylor's really going and, really beating it over the head with the, length of this record. But I do think it is necessary. This is kind of a special release, a deluxe release. And so obviously the 16 songs that were on the original version, the standard edition of Red, I am not going to spend too much time talking about in this review. I have already reviewed the Red album in 2017. I made a review of it. I will also link that in the description. I share a lot more of my in-depth thoughts and analysis on the lyrics of those songs. So if you'd like to see that, that will be there for you, but I don't want to waste too much time on that. All I will say is that with those re-recorded 16 songs, all of them live up to the potential and to the quality that I am looking for to effectively erase the original. I actually own Red on CD. I bought it a couple years ago, not knowing that she was going to re-record it. Had I known, I probably would have waited and bought the new CD. The difference with having the CDs and listening to those old songs, you're not giving Scooter any money by doing that. The CD has already been bought. That's different. If you're streaming or if you're choosing to buy those songs new for the first time on iTunes or whatever, it's more important that you buy these versions because especially if you're streaming, you're giving royalties to, the company that now owns the masters of those songs. And so you're not giving it directly to Taylor. You know, she might be getting a small percentage of that, but it's nowhere near what you'd be giving her if you were streaming the new versions. Plus, we want those versions to flop anyway now. That's the whole point of these re-recordings. I just still even deleted, even though it's a CD version, I still have the CD, but I deleted the songs I'd imported from that, placed them with these songs. So just pretend they came out in 2012. With that being said, the one song that I just wanted to make a little critique on, that I just felt like I had to comment on, was We Are Never Ever Getting Back Together. I think this is one of her worst lead singles that she's ever put out. It's not like the worst song she's ever made. It's Taylor Swift. I mean, it's catchy, it's funny, it's snarky, it's meant to be a lead single. I'm not going to find a lot more than that from it. That's okay. I'm not going to really critique her too hard for that. But I will admit, it's kind of ironic that this album, which has so much balladry, came from an album led by that song. I think it's just quite interesting, because I remember hearing it for the first time and thinking, oh, here we go again, you know? No, this album turned out to be quite the opus. In fact, it might be my favorite record of hers. I still am torn between Speak Now and Red, which one I prefer. I think overall, I think Red is probably my favorite, just because there's just such quality when there's the good songs. There is a lot more filler on Red than I feel like there is on Speak Now, and so that might mean Speak Now is overall a better package. But the filler doesn't really bother me on Red. Like, yeah, there's a few songs I like to skip, but I don't know. It's a longer record, so if it's only now 13 songs, it's still as long as Speak Now. I think those 13 songs are just marginally a little bit better. That being said, I do want to comment on the re-recording. We Are Never Ever Getting Back Together. The we is really, really cringe to me in this re-recording. I don't know what it is. I don't know if they just tried to tighten the production a little bit more so that it's a lot more emphasized, but it sounds like a completely higher pitched kind of cheesy vocal from her. And I just find it very like kind of hilarious, but it's hard to take. It's even more harder to take this song seriously after hearing that. And if anyone listens to the song and notices that, sorry I put that in your head, but I just can't. The we are is so, there's something about it. It's like her vocals are so much deeper in every single song than the re-recording, than the originals. But in that we, it's like pitched higher, and it makes it sound like she's got helium in her voice or something. Anyway, it's a very kind of jarring thing for me. I just had to point that out. But let's talk about all of the other songs, including the 3 bonus songs from the original release, which I did not review on my original review of Red. I'm not a deluxe kind of fan of Taylor. This album was already 16 songs. I felt like I had enough, personally. I didn't really feel the need to seek out. Those songs were not on iTunes, so I couldn't buy them at the time. So I had to get the CD version, which at the time I wasn't going to do. And then I bought, the standard edition on eBay, because I was trying to save money. So I never listened to the bonus 3 songs, Girl at Home, Come Back, Be Here, and The Moment I Knew. And can I just say, I really do wish I had listened to them before. My favorite out of the 3, it kind of shifts, but I think The Moment I Knew has now become my favorite. I just think the overall storytelling of that song is the strongest. The picture she is painting of someone jilted at a party and realizing that this is not what she signed up for, and that once again, this guy, maybe Jake Gyllenhaal, we don't know. He's definitely the subject of a lot of the songs on this record, as most Taylor Swift fans will know. It definitely, I think, adds that atmosphere and energy and kind of bitter energy that Taylor triumphantly delivers, particularly in the chorus, that is very anthemic, very soaring, just like a power country or pop country chorus that I think is very satisfying. I also think Come Back, Be Here has a great melody, so that song also is standing out to me. I think Girl at Home, I've heard some people say that she turns it into a little bit more up-tempo of a version from the original. I'll confess I've not heard the originals of these 3 songs, so I can't compare them to the original, so maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe I'm making things up in my head. But someone said that Girl at Home is very different from the original. You can enlighten me in the comments if you know. But, I think besides the fact that, it's a very poignant sort of message for her to make, which is that, I am not going to be the other girl. I would be stupid. I'm going to call you out on this. It's kind of just a little more simplistic and not as exciting. I do think that Ronin, which was a song, believe it or not, that I did hear off of 2012, that era, Ronin was a charity single that she wrote after reading I believe it was on Reddit, a story about a mother who lost her 4-year-old son to, I believe it was cancer or some form of illness. And she actually ended up meeting with that mother, I believe, and she performed the song for her, if I'm not mistaken. And the take of her on the studio version in the original is like, she can tell she's like about to break down while performing. It's so emotional. In fact, I've seen some reviewers say that this song is so deeply personal and about a boy who died tragically of cancer that it's like, you can't say anything negative about it, even if it's not your favorite song. Like, it's just, like, you can't even rank it within the Red ranking, you know, because it's just like, the respect that it's due is so overbearing. And I feel that same way. I mean, it is a beautiful melody. I have nothing bad to say about the melody, but goodness gracious, I mean, the story is, it's gut wrenching. And I do remember listening to it when I was a sophomore in college. And when that album, when Red, by the way, was the album that got me sold on Taylor Swift, can I just say, 2012, fall of 2012, that I call the Red Fall, because that was when Red came out, and it was like, finally, I'm going to pay attention to Taylor's music. Like, I'm also going to listen to Speak Now and Fearless. That was the start of that. I kind of had not really been paying attention to her besides the radio before that point. The first 4 years or so of her career, or actually at that point it had been 6 years. I wasn't really that big a fan. I didn't think her music spoke to me. I just was like, why am I going to listen to country? I'm into Lady Gaga. Like, you know, like, that's just not. And then I feel like, you know, Red just changed it all for me. So Ronan came out just right before that. And I just remember like being like, this is too much for me. This is too much. But yes, Ronan deserved to be on this version. It kind of probably could have been on the original. I understand why she didn't at the time, because she didn't want to capitalize off of such a sad story. And so it became a charity single, but why not throw it on this version, because it deserves. I can only imagine, though, the mother of that poor child. I mean, listening to it again, dredging all of that up again, it's got to be hell of emotional 10 years later. Wherever she is, I hope that, you know, I hope she appreciates it. Obviously, I'm sure she had her blessing for her Taylor to put that on there and re-release it, but it must be really difficult to have it re-released, you know, the trauma is being like re-released, kind of, even though that song I think was very cathartic for her and for Taylor to write. There is an acoustic version of State of Grace, and correct me if I'm wrong, if we'd ever heard, probably on a tour somewhere, but if there had ever been a studio release of State of Grace acoustic, I'd never heard it until this re-recording. So I still think State of Grace is better as a full-fledged rock pop song. Country rock pop song. Again, this genre, this album was where she was really starting to flirt with the pop stuff, the electronic influences that came into also a little bit more of an alt rock sound. And State of Grace definitely pushed that envelope. I remember at the time people were like, this isn't a country song. Even though I still kind of think of it as country, but it's not. It's not country. The guitars are so different. And it's very satisfying. The acoustic is definitely enjoyable, but I prefer the full-fledged version. Okay, and then we have technically 8 songs, if I'm not mistaken. Is it 8 or 9 that we had never heard Taylor sing? So 2 of those songs, as I mentioned, were songs released by other artists. The song Babe was released in 2018 by the country band Sugarland. I don't know anything about them, but Taylor actually featured on that song, if I'm not mistaken. So Taylor did sort of sing a bit of that song, so we'd heard that before. The other song, the stronger one in my opinion of the 2, the one I prefer to listen to, is Better Man, which was released in 2016 by country group Little Big Town. This song actually won the Grammy for Best Country Duo Pop Performance at the 2018 Grammy Awards. Now, I have not heard that version of the song. I've only heard Taylor's. Don't know if I'm ever going to hear Little Big Town's version. I apologize. But I will say that Better Man, that's a song that deserved to see the light of day as Taylor performing it. I think it's a really wonderful, soaring breakup ballad. I think that it speaks to the heart of everyone when we agree that, like, why couldn't you as a man have just been better? If you had been a better man, the problems that would have never occurred, I'm currently watching this Netflix show called Made, and I'm going to probably mention it again when I talk about All Too Well, the 10-minute version. I highly recommend that show. it's a complete roller coaster of emotion, so be prepared to strap yourself in for it. It's a bit brutal to watch at times, but it's about, you know, fundamentally a abusive relationship. This woman is having to deal with this guy who, you know, keeps kind of coming in and out of being a decent guy. Like it's like he's almost decent enough that you fall for him a bit, and then you realize, no, this guy is nowhere near fit to be a husband or a partner or a father. And it's just like I can see like the woman female character of this song like screaming this at the top of your lungs, like it's just like, this is all your fault, you know. And like, why are we held to such higher standards than you are? Like what is this, what's going on here? This is so unfair. It really is just such a statement record. Such a statement record. Great melody. Big fan of it. So now we're going to talk about the 6 songs that are from the vault. I mean, technically Better Man and Babe are as well, but we heard them released before by other artists. The first song, Nothing New, featuring Phoebe Bridgers, the Grammy-winning rock pop star who is becoming quite a household name. I will confess, and you know I cover a lot more female musicians on this channel. Some might be like, why haven't you talked about Phoebe Bridgers? I still need to do a lot of my homework on her. I really do. I definitely checked out the album. I don't think it's even her first album that got all the Grammy acclaim. I like listened to a few songs and I wasn't really feeling it. It's not exactly my genre. Like I like Paramore, I like Hayley Williams, but that's because their songs are hella catchy. Her music is not really built for that. I don't find her music at all melodically interesting. I appreciate the songwriting. I really do. It's just not exactly my kind of music. I'm a little too gay for it. Maybe that's the problem. But I really appreciate Phoebe Bridgers. I love that she is the first woman to win a rock solo artist award or something at the Grammys. I mean, that's like ridiculous. I'm like, what? In 2021? What? But with that being said, Phoebe Bridgers definitely deserved to be not only featured on this song, but she's actually the first female to be featured on a Taylor Swift song to not be just designated backing vocals. This is kind of crazy that like Taylor has featured so many female artists and country acts in the past, but they've only ever been backing vocalists. Finally, she gets an actual verse and 50% of the lyrical content on this song, which, you know, it's about dang time. I've had too much to drink tonight, and I know it's sad, but this is what I think about. And I wake up in the middle of the night, it's like I can feel time moving. How can a person know everything at 18 but nothing at 22? And will you still want me when I'm nothing new? In the verses, describing more, you know, vividly and viscerally how I think the insecurity that comes up with a lot of relationships, that, you know, this kind of emotional cycle and like, you know, torrent that I will constantly get caught up in. You're not going to think it's too cute 10 years from now when I'm still having these kind of hiccups. You know, I'm still having these moments where I'm just crying late in my room, or breaking down over something potentially in your view sort of insignificant, but for me it's like the straw that broke the camel's back. Will you still want me after all that time? I mean, I think it's just it's a heartfelt sort of burst of insecurity that needed to be expressed through this song. And I think it reflects, again, like the songwriting. I mean, you have to remember and believe that Taylor wrote all these songs when she was probably 21, 22 years old. And so obviously that line, how does everyone know, how can you know everything at 18 and nothing at 22? I think about that line a lot. It's funny, this album, I tweeted something about how, you know, obviously we're all a little bit older. I'm not saying Taylor Swift fans can't be younger, because they definitely are a ton of them that are very young, Gen Z. But, you know, people who are more Taylor's generation, I'm 4 years younger than Taylor, but I'm almost her generation. It's been a long time since we were 22, and let me just say that hearing the song 22, it hits a little hard. It hits a little hard when you're pushing 30. Just putting that out there. At least I'm not 30 yet. For Taylor, that must be even harder to hear. But anyway, I remember when everyone's 22nd birthday, it was like, that was the song. It had to be, of course. I appreciate Nothing New more for the lyrical content than I do for the melody. It's a little bit more what I could see her putting on some of her more recent records, Folklore and Evermore. I believe that Aaron Dresner has a hand in a lot of the production on this record, as he did with Fearless. So even though she's collaborating with a lot of the same like artists and instrumentalists and obviously features like Gary Lightbody and things like that, Ed Sheeran. There's new production at the helm. So there's a little bit more in the vault tracks alternative country sound than there is in a pure sort of pop country sound of her earlier songs. Message in a Bottle. This song lights up the stage. It brings a smile to your face. So exuberantly positive in its melody. I just can't get enough of this. This is a delectable pop treat. For fans of 1989 Taylor, this is everything they've been wanting for quite some time. This is like just a feast for the ears. I'm such a fan of it. It's simple lyrically. It's more about the melody, and so for some people it might be a little cringe. If you prefer the very sort of waxing, deliberate, Evermore kind of pace stuff, maybe this isn't your cup of tea. But Taylor is a diverse, artist, so we get gems like Message in a Bottle, which, along with the other underrated bop on this record, Starlight, which does not get the attention it deserves. I could have seen Starlight being a single off of this record. I would have loved to have seen it be a single instead of I Knew You Were Trouble. That's a whole other thing. Message in a Bottle fits right in with that sort of dizzying Christmas light, evening party energy. I Bet You Think About Me, featuring country superstar Chris Stapleton. She just put out a music video for this song. This is definitely the more kind of, banjo, harmonica sort of country sound that could have easily fit on Fearless or on her self-titled debut. Red still has a little bit about that like authentic country sound to it, so it fits perfectly on Red. It's her last any bit country record, even though there's one or two songs on 1989 and on Lover that you could consider traditional country, same with Folklore and all them. But anyway, I Bet You Think About Me, it's a great sort of post-breakup, bitter, jaded song. I mean, again, what can I say? It's a little humorous. It's something that I expect Taylor to do, like, it's her bread and butter. The only thing is I do think it's a little too Miranda Lambert, like, I don't know, generic female country for me, like pop country for me. It's not really for me. The music video is fun, but like, this song is like a little too kitsch for me. I don't know how to explain it, but a little too basic. But, hey, it is what it is. Like, a lot of female pop stars could put out a song like this. I don't know if this is, maybe Taylor has the blueprint for it, but I don't know. She can do so much better. Forever Winter is starting to grow on me melodically. A bit more of that melancholic, winter sound that I think is something I'm very much, again, like, very much have an ear for. All this time I didn't know you were breaking down. I'd fall to pieces on the floor if you weren't around. Too young to know it gets better. I'll be summer sun for you forever. Forever winter if you go. Using the metaphor of seasonal affective disorder, depression, basically to explore what potentially the mental health struggles of her partner is dealing with that is negatively affecting her, because she's also wanting to like let him know that like, I can be your sun for you. I can lighten you up. Just please don't leave me. Give me that chance to like, in a way, almost fix you. Which is kind of a strange position for Taylor to have, because a lot of these songs, I think Taylor is sort of trying to absolve responsibility for the the stuff that that guy has done to her. But in this song, she's really trying to, be supportive for him. Run, a bit more again of a melancholic duet, this time again featuring Ed Sheeran. Apparently, this song and Everything Has Changed were written on a trampoline, which I find kind of interesting. I don't quite understand how this song, which is so slow pacing and melodic and, melancholic, could be conceived on a trampoline. But anyway, there's a lighthearted sort of whimsicality of this song, and it's kind of just a whimsical love song. Let's run away from it all. Let's just have a fun, let's just have a brilliant escape. Say what you want about Ed Sheeran, but he does have a really good voice. I gotta come around a bit. Actually, I'll be honest with you, his most recent record, Equals, I actually think is his best record he's ever put out. Maybe just because it's his most mature. I think it's just a much more personal, kind of melancholic record instead of him just trying to be a fuckboy. And I really appreciate it. And I'm not going to review it on this channel, but I just did want to give him a little bit of a shout out. I do check out Ed Sheeran's music, if not very peripherally. It's not really my cup of tea, except on the ballads. I think he can do some really beautiful, especially when he sings about his mother. Like, it really gets me. His late mother. It's really sad. Anyway, just putting that out there. Okay, and then we have The Very First Night, which is the other new song we hadn't heard. Again, sparkly, Christmas Eve party energy. Like, just, I don't know why I get these like winter Christmas party energy vibes from a lot of these songs, but I do. Upbeat, up tempo, hopeful, 1989 sounding. She also mentions Polaroids. Maybe she should have saved this for 1989's Volt tracks, but who knows? I don't know. Maybe 1989's Volt tracks are going to be songs more kind of geared towards potentially as she was seeking into reputation. But I do think it's just very interesting that like how much it would have sonically fit on that record. And again, it's a really fun song. I'm not gonna phone home about it and say, "Oh my God, this is amongst Taylor's best songs ever." And a lot of these Volt tracks are kind of eh. I think my favorite is "Message in a Bottle," just because it's just so catchy and so magnetizing in that way. Perhaps also with "Forever Winter." I'm not sure. I'm sort of debating between that and "Nothing New," "Forever Winter" and "Nothing New," and also "The Very First Night." I mean, it deserves to be on your playlist. But a couple of the other ones don't stand out for me as much. And then, of course, I have to talk about it. At the very end, we get a 10-minute version of All Too Well. The fans have wanted it for years. We didn't know if it actually existed. Some people think that Taylor lost it and she's now kind of pretending she found it all these years later when she's really kind of writing these new lyrics for the first time. I don't believe that. I think that this is the original version she wrote. She admits that it was this sort of vomit kind of on a guitar session that just went on and on, and she was just kind of almost improvising. And she had to edit it down because at the time she thought, oh, who's going to listen to a 10-minute song? I think a lot of artists today would be entering the chat, like Coldplay, for example, or Lana Del Rey, or I don't know, Björk, looking at their backlog catalog of 10-minute songs and be like, girl, 10 minutes ain't that weird. You're just basic as hell. But anyway, 10 minutes, finally, Taylor decided to do it. I wasn't sure if I could handle 10 minutes of Taylor Swift, but at the same time, with All Too Well, I knew we were in good hands. This is one of her best songs she's ever made. If I did a Taylor Swift ranking, it would probably be in the top 3. I don't know how I'd rank it within that, but it is one of the best songs. And this added kind of, first of all, a little bit more alternative instrumentation. The guitars are a little bit more muted, a little bit more muddied, which at first I was like, oh boy, here we go again. Aaron Dresner coming in hot, but guess what? Jack Antonoff, she can't get away from Jack Antonoff. But you know what? I forgive it. It's sort of got to differentiate itself from the original somehow. I wasn't sure if we were going to get like almost identical instrumentation, just added lyrics. I think it was smart for her to muddy this one a little bit more, to make it a little murkier in sound, because this is a fuller kind of atmospheric body of work. And it's meant to tell a story. And so we've got the highs and the lows, we've got the space, and I think it works pretty well. She saved most of her more vitriolic, biting lyrics for this re-release. I think obviously she didn't want to put "fuck the patriarchy" at that time on a record. But now she's like, I don't care, I'm now a political, awake and aware artist, as we all know. Since 2018, she has been much more vocal about things like that. And so I appreciate that she has the balls to say things like that now, because in 2012, she really wasn't kind of making that kind of commentary. And basically everything, you don't even remember at this point, like what's new and what's not. Even though you do, you don't notice that she's flitting in between sections of the song that we are familiar with and new sections. It all flows together. You don't even really feel its runtime. You don't. Maybe because I haven't listened to this song enough, but I don't feel like 10 minutes. Like some songs that are 10 minutes, like Venice Bitch, for example, or Body Memory by Björk, I can't sit through. They're just so long, and I just have a hard time sitting through 10 minutes of a song. But this one flies by. I have no trouble with it. And the music video, which features Stranger Things actress Sadie Sink and Dylan O'Brien, who I remember from Teen Wolf, definitely had a bit of a crush on him back then. They play her beautifully, and again, I can't stop thinking about the Netflix show Made. I don't know if Taylor I don't know if it came out in time for her to be potentially inspired by it as well, but I mean, this is a story that it's like watching the music video. These are all the images that I had when I first listened to All Too Well in 2012. Autumn leaves falling upstate as two lovers are driving in the car to go on a hike together. One of them's got a red scarf on. dancing in the refrigerator light. We've got to have that scene enacted. I mean, she's almost going a little too literal with some of the scenes, but at the same time, why not? You know, she's depicting, her lyrics can be very literal, and she's depicting this relationship as it grows and then decays. And at the end, she's presenting herself as this author who's wrote a poem or a book or something based off of it, which, you know, I think is a little cheesy, to be honest with you, but I get what she was doing with that. I almost would have preferred maybe it didn't like look that quite like, oh my God, I wrote a book about a relationship that I don't want to say is not unique, but it's like so universal that it's like a little bit like, okay, good for her, but like, how's that gonna, yeah, I don't know. I'm maybe nitpicking too much. The story might be a little too generic to make a book out of, but every story is unique, you know, if you've got more details that are hidden from the 15-minute, I mean, the video is only 15 minutes long, so it's quite short. You could almost have a lot more. And I do love the one scene that Taylor said is kind of semi like one shot, like they're almost improvising, like just really flying with the dialogue that she wrote, and it just felt so real that it was kind of quite amazing to witness on, you know, on the set. And yeah, it's very evocative of the show made. I don't know what else to say. I mean, at least, you know, it doesn't get quite as dark in the end, but yeah, definitely shadows of that in there. And a brilliant film. I love the SNL performance I just watched with the film projected behind her. And yeah, I don't know. I think it was just so smart of her to finally put this out, to utilize this opportunity to give this song its fully fledged version, and to build more into it. I think that I don't necessarily need every single song of hers to be 10 minutes long, but I think it emphasizes just what a great songwriter she is. I mean, you know, that's always how it's going to be. And it still has a really great melody. So I can't fault the melodic construction either, which is one of those things that usually it's more the lyrics that stand out or the melody, that not usually both, but in All Too Well's case, especially with Taylor, both are chef's kiss. And I don't even mind the Jack Antonoff production here. I forgive it. I let it go. It is what it is. And so I am definitely a fan. All in all, I'm very impressed with Red Taylor's version. I do think that this process could get a little exhausting if she's going to go so quickly from re-recording to re-recording. Some people think 1989 is months around the corner, and she waited a good amount of time between Fearless and Red to re-record. I could see her doing about 2 a year, one in the spring, one in the fall. She's still got 4 more albums to re-record, so it's like, whew, oh boy, Taylor's not going to be out of the limelight for a long time, and I hate to say it, but I do think she is pushing it a little bit with the amount of music she's putting out. Like, again, I'm not a Taylor Swift stan, so that's why I'm saying it. The stans are so lucky. I'm still sitting here waiting for, you know, a 4th Imogen Heap album, but, you know, here we are, you know, getting another Taylor Swift album every 6 months. That's 30 songs long, you know. Anyway, I don't know. I'm looking forward to the re-recordings, but I'm okay with them taking their time to come out, even though I do understand there is a bit of an imperative to get them out sooner so that the sooner they're out, the sooner we can devalue scooters. But it's got to, you know, I don't know. Putting them all out at once, I think, would cheapen the impact of all of them. It's space them out, give them a little bit of space. And personally, I would almost like to see her just commit to just doing the re-recordings before she releases her 10th studio album. But I don't see that happening. I see the 10th studio album potentially coming next year, as well as maybe 2 recordings, and we're just going to be drowning in Taylor Swift content. But at this point, what are you going to do? With that being said, we'll see what she goes, if it's 1989 or if it's Speak Now. Some people say it's one or the other. Who knows? She's obviously not going in order. I do think it was smart, though, to do Red in the fall. Red is definitely a fall record, whereas a lot of her other records could kind of be released at other times of the year. I think Red is her most distinctly November, October record. It's that time of year and that time of year only. So thank you all for watching this video. Please share your comments and your thoughts on this. What are your favorite songs? And I will see you all in my next one. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all have a wonderful, blessed day. Peace, love, and light. Bye.